In order to prove the law of conservation of momentum, we created our own type of ballistic pendulum. Instead of the standard gun and suspended block of clay, we used a paintball gun and a wooden board, shooting a paintball into the suspended board, measuring the height that the board moved vertically, and finally calculating the momentum of each of the two objects to prove that the momentum of the system at the beginning would be equal to the system's momentum at the end. To prove that the initial momentum would be equal to the final momentum, we needed to know a few things: the weight of both the board and the paintball, the initial speed of the paintball, and the final speed of the board. We measured the vertical displacement on the board on the pendulum, and from that we calculated the speed of it at the beginning of the swing. The weight of the bullet is 3 grams, the weight of the board is 198 grams, and the initial speed of the bullet is 270 feet per second or 82.3 meters per second. The final height of the board is 2.89 centimeters. We were able to measure the final height of the board by using Logopro, a video analysis software that allowed us to calculate the height if we brought a ruler or a meter stick into the frame in the same plane as the board. Using these values, we then calculated the initial momentum of the system, which was 0.2469 kilogram meters per second. The final momentum of the system was 0.183 kilogram meters per second, giving us an experimental error of negative or positive 18 or 22%. This is because there is no actual accepted value to compare our experimental value to. We are comparing one experimental value to another, so depending on which one we made the accepted value, the experimental error changed. Nevertheless, 22% and 18% are both reasonably good values of error, considering the many factors that could have added to our experimental error. Our measurement methods were not very exact of the height of the board. For it to be perfect, the board would have had to be a singularity, a point with all mass concentrated in that point. To accurately measure the height difference, we would need to measure the difference in the height of the center of mass, and we had no way to measure the center of mass. Therefore, our height value could have been off by a bit, and air resistance probably played a role in the inaccuracy of the height. Also, when we shot the paintball, the air tank was very empty. The paintball shot at a speed much lower than it normally would, so we lopped off 50 feet per second of the original speed and used 220 feet per second instead of 250. All these factors added to our experimental error and gave us our final error of either 22 or 18%, which we were very satisfied with. One of the most important things we learned is that to do an experiment involving a paintball gun, you have to be very careful with safety and make sure everything is thoroughly planned out and goes according to schedule. Because we got going a bit later than Stacy expected us to, and it is difficult to use a paintball gun at school anyways, we were not able to do this at school. And even though that slowed us down for a bit and discouraged us, we still managed to get it done over the weekend. Being able to get over this hurdle was the most difficult part of the lab for us. Although this lab had its ups and downs, we are all very happy with the final results.